And welcome back. It's been a while, and overtime's at an end at my retail job, so I'll have more time for stuff like this. So I'm back in the land of the living. I'm still alive. But man, I was just exhausted and all of that. But a quick update for everybody. To my right is a new desktop that I acquired thanks to the generosity of a friend of mine in Holden. He's an old attorney who's done quite well for himself, and he's a digital artist, so he didn't mess around with a lot of that stuff. The thing was a backup that system he never really used. So, and he's getting ready to move to Mississippi, so he's trying to clean his place out. And you have been you've been trying to get that old system working yourself, haven't you?
Yes. Well, before we started the podcast, I'll let everybody know. I went ahead and drug it up. I'm not doing anything this evening. I've got free time that I haven't had for like 4 or 5 years. So I've done some programming and stuff here and there. And then I had this system that an instructor at UCM who was leaving was cleaning out his office and stuff. And he came into the lobby one day when I was working on my software engineering project with my group. And he brought it to us. He's like, "Would you guys want this?" And I looked at it. I was like, "Oh!" So I took it. I took it off of his hands. It's got an old. It's really, really old. It's a compact Armada M700 with Intel Pentium 2 in it. That runs at. I think this one runs at 400 megahertz. But that's top tier. So I'm not sure if it's that one or if it's a 366. Right now, it's installing software. It seems to be running just fine. I couldn't get it to boot many images because it's so old. It only has 128 megs of RAM and a 6.5 gigabyte hard drive. So I'm kind of limited at the moment.
Wow.
But getting in line with it and seeing what I can get it to do.
Well, myself, the system to my right apparently has a quad core Q8300 Intel Core 2 Duo processor, so 2.5 gigahertz, which is actually more powerful than, I think it's more powerful than one I have in this desktop that I'm running off of this high definition monitor, and big widescreen Samsung SyncMaster 226BW, which is amazing. What's probably going to happen is the 500 gigabyte hard drive is going to go in this tower that we're doing this show through, and the video card is going to go into the other tower. Both have the same amount of memory because, well, he did a lot of Photoshop, so he didn't mess around with hardware at the time. So he made sure his stuff could run Photoshop CS4, which is apparently still on that system. So, but it's probably going to get wiped, and for now it's running Firefox because I'm not going to run Internet Explorer on that thing. Because I fear that any website I try to pop up on it, it's going to cause it to go crash. So, oh, shut up, Zone Alarm. You're going to be gone too. But I tried running Kubuntu 15.04 on it, and I think the Nouveau drivers and the new Plasma didn't play very nicely with the hardware that it had. So artifacts showed not much in the way of artifacts. It just didn't all render properly. I'm right-clicking a menu, and it's showing the outline of the menu and nothing in between. I'm like, oh.
Sounds like a issue. If it was, you said you were running the Nouveau drivers?
Well, yeah, because it was off the live CD. So I'm like,
okay. Yeah,
not every.
Of course, running open source. The Nouveau project has always had issues.
But
So,
although,
but I mean, for the same sake, um, the proprietary drivers have always had problems on Linux too. Even,
right.
I mean, it always depends on the time. NVIDIA's just never been so good, and then AMD's always had some issues here and there too.
Oh,
The DLRX driver, I had so many issues installing on this desktop over here.
yeah. If memory serves correct, AMD, yeah, they're Catalyst drivers with like a new version of Fedora. Somebody who had been maintaining it basically gave up. And I'm like, oh my. And so you couldn't even get that to install. And because of, the whole, Wayland in the background, or Wayland support baked in, it apparently didn't play nicely with Catalyst at all. So it was just a mess. I don't know if it's been resolved at this point. I may find out in the future. But the reason why I tried Kubuntu, and I'll probably try an older version and then just have the appropriate drivers installed and then try to get the new Plasma with the back ports, is because I kind of been reading up a little bit on the conflict between Jonathan Riddell. He helped. He was the original person who was doing work on Kubuntu. He was initially employed by Canonical, and then eventually they ended his employment in order to focus their energies on other things. And Blue Systems kind of took over with the commercial support and everything else for Kubuntu, and they're the ones behind Netrunner as well, the distro as well. So I'm going to try to reduce the volume on this thing a little bit. There we go. I was getting buzzing in my ears, so like this thing comes in handy for that. But there were a couple of conflicts. One of them was the whole Ubuntu licensing of trademarks and things like that. And the reason why that popped up was because there was a conflict regarding Ubuntu and Linux Mint. Clem Lefevre, however you pronounce his last name, had gotten an email regarding licensing issues, and he pointed out that apparently they couldn't tell the difference between Linux Mint and Linux Mint Debian edition. So go figure. at the time, so it's and folks, this is part of the reason why I'm like, I'm not going to bother joining a loco or a local Ubuntu community thing, because I've from little outside observation online, they seem to be problematic to me anyway. It's the whole my way or the highway mentality, which can be harmful. But the other one was, like, have you ever seen the little download page or the donation thing as you download a copy of Ubuntu before, where you can be like, sure, I'll give money. I want so much of this to go towards this, so much of this to go towards that. Well, there were questions raised about that, and I guess there was conversations in private and all of that, and feelings got hurt probably on both sides. And long story short, they decided to no longer recognize Riddell as any sort of leader, even though the Kubuntu Council is democratically elected and they never had an official leadership title in the first place, so which is even more confusing. And so he's eventually reaffirmed on the Kubuntu Council. So I don't know. Have you ever run into any any issues like that doing group projects for computer science, because I read it and I was baffled.
I've never had hardly any problems with group projects. Like for the most part, like all the groups, the groups I've been part of, usually they were some of my friends in classes or something, or somebody I was friendly enough with that we never had any problems. Like I guess the worst problem that we could have had would have been maybe communication, just not having enough of it. But like in terms of actual problems or something being problematic, one guy had a couple of times where he couldn't show up because of work, but like over the course of 4 months, I never had an issue with my biggest project, my software engineering project. And then for my computer organization class, we had a fairly big project, never had any problems with that. And then like just over the course of my school career, I didn't really have too many problems at all either. And I've been at my previous job, we kind of had a team where we had to work. I'm working on a team now at my new job, and everybody there is like really, really willing to help you learn and everything. And I learned a lot today specifically. I've learned a lot over the last like couple weeks. Like, okay, I've gone through 4 years of school learning programming and algorithms and like you name it, anything that a computer science student would learn. And then I come to this job, and then it's just like, bam, you get smacked with information. I mean, it's just right there. But I mean, it's good. I've loved it. It's so different than what I expected, but I'm loving it, and I'm just going to continue to love it. So.
Well, and does it help that you're often in the same room as everybody else, and you're, talking back and forth and everything else?
Well, I mean, we're all on the same floor, and like some of our teammates, like I'm in a little cluster here, and then there's another cluster of our teammates over this way, like through a few cubicles. And the cubicles, like a lot of big name companies now, I did some research on this, are going towards a open type structure, an open floor structure for teams and for office spaces. So basically, you don't have a cubicle, you don't have that privacy. There could be a guy like 2 to 3 feet next to you, but he can see everything that you're doing. The computer monitor's open, like they can see if you that minute just like want to go check Facebook real quick, everybody could judge you right then and there. And then at shelter where I work, like complete privacy. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can almost get away with watching porn if you wanted, but I don't think I would do that at work.
Right.
We theoretically you could. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're monitoring the network too, so you got to be careful with that. Some are blocked.
Right. But because I've noticed that mailing lists are mentioned, private emails or so-called private emails and things like that, and the guy was accused of being overly aggressive in his questioning, saying, "Look, you're bringing up good points, but you're being aggressive about it." And I'm asking myself. And I've read some of the published emails and everything else, and one of them who wished to remain anonymous was like he couldn't go through a hangout session regarding this topic without breaking down and crying. And I'm stepping back and I'm thinking to myself, maybe you are the one that needs to step away from the monitor for a little bit. And this is just my opinion, because I've noticed that there are times online. You're reading an email, right? You don't always know what emotions are actually being conveyed. Yeah, you can feel frustration, and you can say, I feel frustrated, but that's not the same. So, either way, Kubuntu, I may give it a try after I swap some parts out after all of this. I'm going to be a busy bee tonight, needless to say. But kind of moving right along, you found an announcement that's upcoming.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people have been waiting for, and me personally, I'm subjected to this as well. I've been chomping at the bit, and I've been just like ranting and raving. I want this so bad. Earlier in a previous podcast, we mentioned, Thomas and I talked about E3. For those of you that don't know what it is, it's the Electronic Entertainment Expo. And we mentioned Bethesda. Bethesda this year, the first time they're ever going to do it, they've ever done it, is they're going to E3 to make an announcement, a press conference. And, okay, so Bethesda's a big company. Those of you that are big gamers, you know this. You're familiar with Skyrim. You're familiar with Elder Scrolls Online. You're familiar with Fallout 3 and New Vegas. So this is a big thing. And then just today, I found this out when I was at work, like 2 or 3 hours after it happened. A friend of mine posted it on my Facebook page, and I almost pooped myself when I saw it. I was so excited. You have to check out the link, but if you go to fallout.bethsoft.com, which is Bethesda's blog, for specifically Fallout, right now they have a picture of one of the famous logos that you see in Fallout games, and it says, "Please stand by." And it's a countdown. Right now it's showing 12 minutes, 52 seconds, or 12 hours, 52 minutes, and 28 seconds. And that's until the announcement. So this is like a teaser of an announcement that's going to happen tomorrow, and it's obviously going to be for a Fallout game. 90% of people on the internet are assuming Fallout 4. I want it to be Fallout 4. I do not want it to be a Fallout Online or a Fallout MMO. I will probably be a little upset, but will I buy it? Probably. This is one of those situations where I'm just like screaming, "Take my money!" Just
Right.
Take my money.
Right. I've seen Fallout 3, and I kind of like the whole cartoon animation kind of thing where they're, where the guy's kind of animated and you see how injured he is. It's just, the whole thing just kind of amused me.
There's so much in the series. There's like all kinds of little jokes here and there, and there's some nitty gritty, dirty stuff in it too. And then it's just like, it's a full open world exploration game, kind of like Grand Theft Auto, but it's in a different universe, set in an alternate future where basically this giant nuclear apocalypse happens. So it's awesome.
And I think I remember having conversations with Curtis when we were still at like UCM and before Anime Club, and he talked about how one of the parts he remembered was this woman, whatever, that liked the idea of drinking Nuka-Cola so that it would turn her pee neon green or something like that. And it was just all this weird stuff, and I'm like, I'm like, and I've seen people play it, and it looks fun, especially when it just does that outtake of a headshot or an important shot, and you're like, oh.
The best things of the game is I forgot what it was called. It's like Carnage Cam or Kill Cam or something that's built into it. Basically, if you have kind of like a critical hit, or you do more damage than you normally would, it'll actually or you hit your arm, you could actually target specific parts of the body with this targeting system. It's called VATS, Vault Assisted Targeting System. And you can target like the arm, the leg, you can shoot their legs out and make them hobble to you, slow them down. You can shoot them in the head, blow their heads off, literally. Or what it'll do, there's what is it? I think 7 different stats. They're called special. Is that 7 letters? I think so. Anyway, it's strength, perception, what's he? Endurance, special, charisma, intelligence, what's the A? And then luck. I don't remember what A is. Agility. Okay. And those are all these basic attributes that affect things that your actual other abilities, like minor abilities, like guns for small guns, big guns, melee weapons, unarmed attacks. So like if you want to beat somebody to death with your fists, you can do it. There's just so many different ways to play the game, so many different ways to build a character. It's just a lot like Skyrim, but it's a different system, and it's a different take on role-playing games, and it's just so epic. I love it. The series stemmed from the company that originally created it was what are they called? They're not in business anymore, but they created the original Fallout, Fallout 2, and then Tactics. Interplay Interactive, I think. What they were called.
I almost had to look it up.
Yeah, I bought the original games, and they're like a turn-based strategy game. One that came out recently that was kind of modeled after it is called Wasteland. And it was released on Steam about, I think, a year ago. I haven't bought it yet, but I might. It's the kind of a throwback to the original style. Curtis, I think, would love this more than me. The original, like, strategy-based, the real RTS kind of thing.
So we're waiting for an announcement, like the next day, and you said about 9 a.m. or something like that. Boom, there it'll be.
For us, Central Time. I'm not sure what it would be like for Eastern or any of the other time zones, but it should be 9 a.m. for us tomorrow morning. And then, let's see, tomorrow is the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. And then on the 14th, the 12th through the 14th, I believe, is when E3 is going to be taking place, and Bethesda's got a big thing going on. So they're probably going to release, it's going to be more teasers about Fallout. Everybody knows it's coming, but we don't know what to expect. Like, is it going to be like, are they going to redo one of the games, or are they going to do a new game, which most people are hoping, and if they do, it's going to be so good. I know it's going to be good. And one thing a lot of people are hoping that they'll do is like do something like they did with Skyrim. On Steam, you can use the Steam Workshop, and then modders can mod the game and then just put their stuff on Steam, and then all you have to do is click one button. You don't have to go in, install a separate program to manage your mods, or drag and drop and copy and paste and all that other stuff. You just click the button, and then everything else is handled behind the scenes for you if you want to mod your game. Like crazy texture overhauls or whatever.
So somebody could create like a Super Mario Brothers 3 themes thing, and then boom.
Yeah, probably. I think there might be some. I know there's Macho Man Randy Savage mod for Skyrim that changes some of the dragons into Randy Savage, I think. And then there's also like a fart mod for the shouts and stuff, like screaming, because you bellow out these shouts that'll knock people back because you're the dragonborn and you can speak dragon language or whatever. Instead of doing that, it actually changes the person to where they're bending over and actually farting.
Oh.
I mean, there's so many dumb mods, but there's also like some really cool ones that change the textures or put more grass and stuff like that. I got a lot of those installed on this desktop for Skyrim.
But no, that, and hopefully it'll be a new game and not just oh, are you kidding me? Hopefully they're not trolling everybody. That would be horrible. But sounds like you've got your sights set on getting whatever they're coming out with.
Yeah, I'm really, really, really excited.
So, and again, I'm still actually on the fence on whether I want to swap parts out of everything or not, or just leave it as is and just work with everything that I have, because I don't know. Other than the processors and such, in terms of capabilities, these two systems I have are basically alike anyway. Who knows? I do want to experiment with Windows 10 at some point. So, and it does have a Windows 7 Pro sticker on the tower, so I, in theory, would be able to get get everything up and running on it. So who knows? I'd try to dual boot it for sure, though.
You'll definitely get better performance out of it. If you
Probably. Yeah. Because 500 gigabyte hard drive, and this one has like a 1 terabyte hard drive. So, and who knows? I'm drinking too many carbonated beverages. I'm starting to belch all over the place. But and I hear that thing working in the background still.
Yeah, it's reading a bunch of packages off the CD to install some more software. So 93 and 151.
So, speaking of Microsoft, I've been noticing how they're kind of doing an about face on free and open source software too. Even their IDE Code Editor, Visual Studio Code's available cross-platform. I was able to run it on Ubuntu. I didn't try doing anything with it. I just like, oh, there it is. It's running. There's the menus and everything else. You just download it and run the executable.
I've got it installed on my work machine. I mean, my work machine is a Windows machine, but I can install it on the machine I'm on right now, which is my Mac. I could install it. If I had Linux running, I could install it on that. It runs on anything. Well, I wouldn't say anything, but it's virtually cross-platform.
Well, except for like some of the BSDs, unless you have.
It was like an issue with it running on BSDs. It has to be Linux, not BSD.
Right.
So, like you can install it on Debian, Ubuntu, Gen 2. I don't know. There's bazillions of them, all different types, running different versions of the Linux kernel. And I think for the BSD issue, part of it is the kernel, because it's the BSD kernel is Unix-based, just like the Linux kernel, but it's like a different implementation, so it's slightly different. So it may not work. That might be why it isn't working the same.
Right. I like I said, I ran it for 5 seconds. I was like, okay, because I saw a video presentation of them running, that sort of stuff on there. Now, even they're contributing to the Linux kernel mainly because of their HyperV and Azure products, because I think they're trying to find a way to, go beyond the Windows world for, money, because I think that gravy train's about to hit their final stop on it.
They probably have made a good move by doing what they're doing. People aren't going to go away from using Windows. I can tell you that right now. I personally, I don't mind using Windows. I'm not a big fan of Windows, but I'm used to it. I have my Mac. It's easy to use, but I've also used Linux enough that I can plink away at pretty much any Linux system and figure out. Even if it's just command line, I can figure it out. I can run it.
And they're making their products available for Android phones, like from Microsoft they have Outlook available, as well as Office 365 now.
Yeah, most of their Office products are available on Android as well as iOS, and then the Windows Phone, if you have a Windows Phone. Or you can run it in the web browser on virtually any computer that can run the browser.
So now they're trying to find other revenue streams in order to stay relevant, and even like with Windows 10, they're kind of going the way of Apple. There's not going to be any major releases from here on out. It's just they're just going to keep maintaining it. Of course, they're going to be doing a subscription-based model, something tells me, to where you pay to keep receiving the updates and everything else.
That's what I'm afraid of, because there's a lot of different software companies doing it's similar, following a similar path. A lot of like video game developers are doing that, like big name developers. Bethesda made a mistake by doing that with uh, Elder Scrolls Online. And for most people that are aware, I think I even mentioned on a podcast. I don't remember which one, but they got rid of the subscription. Now you just pay $60 for the game, and you got the game. You
Um,
after you buy the game.
and then there's Adobe attempting to do a subscription-based thing with their products, which to a point I can see it. I wouldn't use their cloud-based stuff, but if I were very savvy with Photoshop and what have you, $40-$60 a month versus thousands of dollars all at once sounds pretty appealing.
I would definitely use it for something like Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver is one of the best web IDE suites I've used. But I mean, granted, I was using it at a school that they got the licenses, and I have a copy somewhere. I don't remember where. I think it might even be installed on this desktop over here. But
because I remember Adobe had this. I can't remember what it was called before they bought out Shockwave, because I think
the Shockwave,
right, and it allowed you to make you could draw, or you could. It was kind of a WYSIWYG thing to where you can design web pages. I'm trying to remember what it was called, and then it was just Dreamweaver after that. PageMaker or something like that. I don't remember.
They now have an open source product that I've actually messed around with a lot, and it's pretty good. I still prefer Dreamweaver over it. It's called Brackets. The Brackets IDE. It supports tons of languages. Like there's a little drop-down selection menu down here at the very bottom of the screen. You click on it, and it's got like anything from HTML, Java, JavaScript, C, C++, Haskell, like some of those languages that people never use or hear of, Fortran, just everything. It supports so many, like the list is like this long. It's gigantic.
COBOL.
Yeah, I think it supports COBOL too. I wouldn't be surprised.
COBOL, the language that refuses to die.
Well, at my job, I'm actually like one of the systems I have to get on to look at some certain stuff. They're running a DB2 database on a mainframe, and I have to go in through what's called our green screen access or whatever it is, jump in there and look through some stuff, and they're still using mainframes and running COBOL on mainframes. And I'm running like jobs for like I think it's for some of the payment stuff. I don't remember.
My goodness. So yeah, that's awesome. So it refuses to die. That's. But it sounds like they're modernizing some stuff too, so I guess that's good. By the way, I did find a monitor for this. I gotta find where I can find. I gotta find an adapter to plug this into.
Oh,
yeah, I bought
a micro USB adapter.
Yep. I'm trying to think. I can't. When you plug this thing in, does it just turn on or what?
Yeah, when you plug it in, it just automatically turns on. So I would recommend plugging in all your peripherals, making sure it's hooked up to a monitor, making sure that it should have, the card should still have something running. I think it's Noobs, what they called their Noobs software, new out-of-box software, lets you pick any operating system off of what they officially support, but from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and then you can wipe it and install it. I think I had, what is that, a 16 gig card?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, it should have something on there, and then Noob software only takes up a gig, and it's got all the stuff that you need to install on an operating system, and then it's got an Ethernet port so you can have internet access, and then you can download everything.
Because like I bought like an LED TV, which was cheaper than buying a monitor, and I was able to. They let me match it at 89 as well, so that was even better. So I'm like, and I got to take that out of the box, and basically figure out what I can do with it, and I'm thinking about getting their Pi 2 as well, and possibly if Adafruit comes up with a case for this. I haven't looked yet, but Windows 10 is even doing the Internet of Things as well on the Pi 2. Although it sounds like you're not going to get a full OS on it or anything like that. It's just,
I think it's just a command line version of Windows, so you get your command prompt, and that's pretty much it.
So somebody could, in theory, compile an interface for it and everything else, and then Microsoft would get all mad. I don't know. Because there were alternative shells for like Windows for a long time, like Windows 98 on, to where if you didn't want Explorer as your shell, you can install these other alternatives which were interesting. And I, at the time, I'm not sure I was able to get any of them properly work, but then again, I was running an old HP Pavilion N5310 with a Celeron processor, so that was probably part of the problem. But just some very interesting things. Do you think Microsoft is doing the old embrace, extend, extinguish, or are they legitimately changing directions and being more pragmatic at this point?
I honestly think it's a little more of the second one, because honestly, it's in their best interest to branch out from just sticking to what they've done, which they've done a great job with the products that they've had and what they have done. And they do have pretty good products, as much as I hate it sometimes, and as much as I would hate to admit it. But they really need to branch out, and especially with like in the server market. You can look this up. I don't have actual facts to tell you, but you can look this up. But like, I think like 95% of all the supercomputers or the major servers or data centers or anything like that, like 90 to 95% of them are all running Linux. There's only like, on the like top 500 list of supercomputers, there's only 1, 2, or 3 of them that are running Windows. And one of them is, I think, the supercomputer. No, the supercomputer I was thinking of in China is actually the Tian. It's fairly popular. It's running version Linux, actually, I think. Almost all of them run Linux, and that's because from a performance standpoint, Linux will beat Windows toe-to-toe any day of the week. Because with Windows, you had the kernel was originally optimized for performance and stuff like that. But the Linux kernel has been built from the ground up for performance and security. And it's just above and beyond what Windows has. It's just the way, the implementation, the way it's been built. And legacy software support in Windows that just drags it down, on top of Windows Aero slows it down, and then the Windows interface itself is just sluggish. It's true. It's unfortunate.
And right now, it's right now what I'm seeing happening more of is with older software is they're now pointing people towards virtualization as a solution. Not because I think they're starting to get away from legacy app support too, because it's, let's face it, it's kind of a pain. Although I would like to see React OS make it to the point where they are actually able to, say, run Windows XP based stuff without any problems, and then suddenly Microsoft say, yeah, if you want in legacy support, check these guys out. Your apps should run on that, and that sort of thing. Or use, sort of like how AMD is done with the free and open source driver. Their Catalyst doesn't support old cards after a certain point, and by then the open driver is caught up anyway. So I see some pragmatism. I'm still kind of cautiously optimistic because, initially you kind of seen like the whole SUSE Microsoft or Novell Microsoft deal, and then there was some mistrust about that, and everything else. I think it's after years of kind of questionable tactics, I think it's going to still take a while for people to believe, okay, they're trying to just do what's best for business now instead of trying to extinguish everybody, because they no longer have the capability to do it. I don't know. So at the very least, I can download a Windows 7 ISO, split this hard drive here in two, dual boot it, and then see if and reserve a copy of 10 just to see what it'll look like. So I can see what happens with that. But I'm not sure I want to drag this monitor all the way over just to show you what it looks like, because it's plugged in. But it is a Samsung monitor, and it's big, and it's plugged in via DVI. So it's going to be very interesting to see in the coming days. Because the bad part is this webcam's built into this monitor. Actually, I should be able to turn it without knocking empty cans off here. But here it is. I don't think it's even at its maximum resolution either. Oh, shut up. I don't care. I don't. But if I were to do this, so I'm gonna actually wonder how. Oh, good God. No, I don't want to keep those settings. No, I don't want to keep those settings. Okay, so I guess it's an XP thing. But this thing is pretty big monitor. So what I think that's pretty much what I'll probably do is split that drive into two and just keep everything inside and not mess with it, and then dust it out later. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And the tower is sitting like down here and everything else below that rolling desk. So anything else you're wanting to bring up today? Because
nothing that I can think of. The biggest thing that I wanted to talk about was just Fallout, because I know I'm excited about it, and it's coming up, and it's a big thing. So, and I guess,
and by the time that I'm going to try to do my best to get the podcast feed updated in a more timely manner. Just work and sleep and work and more sleep kind of interfered with that. And so I'm like, oh, wow. But yeah, I'm tapped out on overtime. I'm sick of it now. So I'm backing off, and thankfully I don't have to deal with the craziness of inventory tonight since I'm off. So sorry, suckers. I mean, my fellow coworkers, but I need some me time now. So I'm sure I'll find out how everything went tomorrow night. But so I guess later in the week, tomorrow, we'll find out whether it's a new Fallout or, oh hey, we're giving you add-ons just to make everybody mad.
I don't think they would take that approach, but I honestly don't know.
Well, either way, it's shaping up to be something very, very interesting. So I think I'll end this episode for now, and hopefully next week or the week after, that one book that you brought up, we'll be able to talk about it, since you brought it to my attention before you moved. The book about biocentrism. So entertain yourself, educate yourself, empower yourself. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Shaggy, Stephen.
And we'll talk at you next time.